Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the over 7,000 Chabad rabbis and guests currently filing into the New Jersey Conference and Expo Center here in Edison, New Jersey, and over 250,000 viewers online from around the world.
He's Rabbi Hesh Epstein, Director of Chabad of South Carolina and Chairman of the National Jewish Retreat.
And he is Zev Jacobson from Jerusalem, the COO of Israel Maven Tours and organizer of the Gala Land and Spirit Trip. Before we begin our program, we want to take a moment to recognize that casting a shadow over this year's Kinus, of course, is the tragic news we received last week of the murder of our fellow Shliach, Rabbi Tzvi Kogan, Tzvi ben Alexander Sender HaKohen, by Islamic terrorists in Dubai. The impact of this horrific crime is still reverberating across the Jewish world. We will mourn, we will cry, but then we will re-energize and rededicate ourselves to the work of Shlichus. We send our wishes of comfort and consolation to the Kogan family and the whole Hashluchim family worldwide. At the end of our program, we will send you to the main session where there will be a special ceremony to honor Rabbi Kogan's memory.
We also salute the brave men and women serving in the IDF and Israel security forces, including Masan Yitzchak, who is currently serving in Jabalia. We mourn the hundreds of soldiers, policemen, and civilians who've been killed in the war, including most recently a member of my community back home, Zamir Burke, who fell in battle in Gaza on Erev Shabbos. We pray for the swift and speedy return of the 101 hostages being held captive by Hamas. We wish strength to all our brothers and sisters in the north, in the south, who are rebuilding their lives, homes, and communities, and a complete and speedy recovery to all those who have been injured.
So, in the spirit of the Rebbe's charge to chase darkness away with light, let's move ahead with our program. Take it away, Zev.
Our Game Day show provides a whole new format to prep for this year's Chabad Kinus. So bear with us as we make our way through this brave new world. We can cover the wide scope and scale of the Kinus in just 75 minutes, but we'll try and provide a taste of this remarkable assembly and the broad sweep of Chabad programming worldwide in our roller coaster ride through amazing world of Shlichus.
Thank you. Today's banquet is the crowning event of the International Conference of Hashluchim, aka the Kinus. For the past 4 days, the Rebbe's emissaries have gathered from across the globe to study, network, reflect, and refocus. This banquet is the largest kosher dinner in the world and the largest seated dinner in the New York, New Jersey area. How do you like that? With more than 5,000 Chabad representatives, thousands of partners and supporters of Chabad houses from over 100 countries. Zev, I'm told that to feed all these people, there are 2 gigantic kitchens with dozens of chefs, 50 table captains, 600 waiters, and tens of thousands of plates and glasses, silverware. Amazing. But first, a brief history. Shluchim, for those who are new to our show, are Chabad men and women and their children dispatched by the Rebbe to dedicate their lives to communities in far-flung places and around the corner in your own community. Their mission is to create Jewish connections, reinforce Jewish heritage, raise Jewish awareness, promote mitzvah observance, teach Torah, and help their community. Beginning in 1950, the Rebbe sent a handful of shluchim to a small number of Jewish communities. Today, there are over 6,000 families of shluchim in more than 100 countries, continuing the Rebbe's vision to create a Jewish version of the Peace Corps. I'm told that tonight at the roll call, they will be announcing 5 new countries where shluchim will be establishing Chabad centers.
In 1983, in response to the Rebbe's urging, 65 shluchim from across the US and Canada came together for the very first Kinus Hashluchim. The following year, 150 Chabad representatives from across the globe attended the first international Kinus. In 1987, the Rebbe announced a plan to help shluchim who were in the red by paying off 10% of the Chabad house's debt and lending them the rest.
That was my first Kinus, and that was a pretty happy one, I can tell you that.
In 1991, the Rebbe spoke of Mashiach's imminent arrival and charged us to do everything in our power to bring the Messianic era even sooner. Eventually, an international Kinus for the women's division and a special program for the children of the Shluchim were added. We hope that this year's Kinus will expand the diversity of Chabad's programming and enhance the impact of the Shluchim's work. Each gathering builds on the foundation laid by the previous one. So before we dive in to the very full agenda for our game day program, let's take a few moments to revisit some of the previous Kinus highlights as featured in this video.
A round of applause for the whole wide world.
If not us, then who? And if not now, then when?
It's wonderful what you've done, but now it's time to go home. And it's time to work harder and harder until that day when the earth is full of the knowledge of the Lord.
I'm so proud to stand before you, you who are the crown of the Jewish people, you who are saving cities, countries, and whole continents. And while others speak of Jewish continuities, you are the ones who created.
And together, let us light a flame in the hearts of other Jews. And together, let us light up the world. As distant as you think you may be, the Rebbe lifts you up and says, my tired shliach, regardless of how little impact you think you may be having, know this, I need you there. God needs you there. History needs you there.
Today's shlichus is unique. It is to stand at the ready. One of Mashiach's main tasks is kibbutz galuyos. Kibbutz galuyos is right here in this room.
השלוחים האלה שיושבים פה באולם, שאני מצדיע לכל אחד מהם. כל אחד מהם נמצא מבלי לקבל משכורת. כל אחד מהם עובד לשם שמיים. זה הודות רבי מלובביץ'. תודה רבה לכולם.
I go out from synagogue, I am shy to have a kippah on my head. Now I have tzitzis.
Happened 41 years ago, Elaine and I were on our honeymoon. We decided to go to the Swiss Alps. I had never been to mountains before. We went, we arrived. It was brilliant sunshine, the view was magnificent. The next morning I opened the window and said, who moved the mountains? They're gone. Then I looked again and I saw that they were covered in very low cloud. What to do? We'd come all this way to climb a mountain, and we couldn't go back without climbing a mountain. But we couldn't see more than 2 or 3 feet in any direction. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know how when we got wherever we got, we'd get back. So I said to Elaine, it is very simple. We will sing Chabad Nigunim. She said, why are we singing Chabad Nigunim? I said, very simple, because if a Jew is lost anywhere in the world, Chabad will find them.
I told Rabbi Kotlarski, we want many, many more shlichim. Rabbi Kotlarski has worked tirelessly to send and assure the success of Shluchim under our sponsorship, not only across the 11 time zones of the former Soviet Union, but to cities all across Germany, Sweden, Norway, Finland, elsewhere in Europe, across Asia, and many other places. And gentlemen, let me pause here for a moment and ask you for a round of applause for Rabbi Kotlarski.
Rabbi Nachman Sudak Olav Shalom, the head shliach of the United Kingdom, told me that he was once in Yechidus with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe told him that he should do the shlichus with more simcha, with more joy. Reb Nachman said to the Rebbe, Ich will sein zufrieden, if the Rebbe is zufrieden. I will be happy if the Rebbe is happy. The Rebbe lifted up his both hands and said, I mishum ha, if that's your problem, hat von schon lang gedarf sein zufrieden. You should have been happy a long time ago. Chevra, we have to know that the Rebbe has tremendous nachas from all our collective work. Whether you are a super shliach with magnificent institutions and buildings, or you are a foot soldier in some tiny community fighting apathy and assimilation all day, the Rebbe has nachas from every single one of us.
They would say of the great Hasidic master, Rabbi Dov Ber, second Chabad Rebbe, that if you cut his finger, it would bleed Hasidut. In today's terms, one might say, if you map the genome of a shliach, the gene sequence would read shlichus. By its very nature, shlichus, a permanent transplantation from the comforts of one's childhood community to an entirely new locale, every element and moment of the shliach's life is shaped by and therefore part of his shlichus. And so, if you chance upon a shliach on a late Friday afternoon, or any other time, in a gas station or anywhere else, don't be surprised if he's about to transform even the most random encounter into an opportunity to share a practical mitzvah or a few words of Torah. This is who he is.
The Rebbe sends shluchim to the furthest stretches of this planet. Why does a young couple or family dare to tread where no man dares tread? Many will venture out to remote places lacking basic Jewish necessities. No Jewish school, no mikveh, sometimes no essential kosher food products. It defies comprehension. But it is because somewhere out there is a Jewish child who is crying. Sometimes the tears are readily discernible. Other times, indeed most often, they're crying internally, sometimes such that they themselves may be oblivious to their own tears. On the surface, they look strong, forthright, determined. But somewhere deep within, at the core, their souls are crying out. Hence, the Rebbe sent shluchim, extensions of himself, as it were, to literally every corner of this universe, to even the most remote of places. It may be so far away, so out of the ordinary, so not in keeping with the norm. But if there is a single Jewish child there crying out, be they 3, 33, or 103, to the Rebbe, to every shliach, that place becomes the focal point of the universe to help them find their way back, to bring them home.
To me, the case for why we should support Chabad is obvious and is constantly being renewed with compelling evidence. And the proof is in a reality that we see today and every day with our own eyes. All of us here tonight are here 28 years after Gimel Tammuz because of the Rebbe's bold, inspired vision. Not only is the business model, so to call it, sustainable, it is spectacularly so. Later this evening, the International Roll Call will vividly illustrate the astonishing growth and how, since Gimel Tammuz, contrary to the predictions of so many so-called experts who said that the movement would, God forbid, collapse, or at least slowly fade away, the Rebbe's vision has continued to be realized at an astounding pace. In 1994, there were nearly 1,200 shluchim working in 737 Chabad institutions worldwide. Just hold those numbers in your head. 1,200 shluchim, 737 institutions. Remarkable, right? It had taken the Rebbe 44 years to build that network. Well, today, there are over 5,700 shluchim in nearly 3,000 Chabad institutions worldwide.
And welcome back. The main driving force that guided the growth of the Kinus was Rabbi Moshe Kotlarsky. He served devotedly for many decades as the vice chairman of Chabad's Educational Center, where he helped establish Chabad houses both nearby and in far-flung outposts around the globe. But his most enduring legacy to the Shluchim was his deep investment in the daily challenges and triumphs of their lives. He was a father figure to them, and as well to their families and their children. Reb Moshe of blessed memory spearheaded the Kinus from his very inception until this year. The Kinus was only one of his many duties, but it is certainly one of the most visible.
That's right, Zev. The sheer scope of the initiatives that Rabbi Kotlarsky spearheaded from his Brooklyn office is just staggering. Chabad on Campus International operates on nearly 1,000 campuses worldwide. The Rohr Jewish Learning Institute is the world's largest provider of adult Jewish education. And America's 302, which provides specialized programming and infrastructure for Chabad centers, including CT, Chabad Young Professionals, Mitzvah Society networks, and so much more. You know, we couldn't think of anybody more fitting as a tribute to Reb Moshe than to ask his son, Rabbi Mendy Kotlarsky, director of America's 302, to share some thoughts about his father, particularly his special attachment to the Kinus. So welcome, Rabbi Mendy Kotlarsky.
Thank you.
Rabbi Kotlarsky, your father always appeared to be large and in charge at the Kinus. But what was his personal perspective about the event?
For my father, the Kinus was really about the ability to fulfill one more responsibility that the Rebbe empowered him with, to be able to take care of the Rebbe's family. The family of Shluchim coming together once a year, and the Shluchais a little bit later in Chaf Bei Shvat. For him, that's all it was. When you have a personal simcha and something you care so much about, and you want to make sure that each and every person that comes here is taken care of, is cared for, is inspired, uplifted, is a part of the program, a session, something important that they're going to be able to go back home with. And that was his real perspective on the Kinus.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about when the Rebbe handed the Kinus responsibility off to your father and directed him to run it? How much discretion did your father have to shape the format and the content of the Kinus?
Many a times my father shared with me his perspective of being lucky to merit to be around headquarters and to be able to watch the Rebbe operate. And many a times he told me the Rebbe had a very unique mechanism of management, a school of management. He would empower people with a responsibility. If you did it well, he gave you more to do. The Kinus was no different. There are many Jewish events, there are many Chabad events, and some of them are very unique and beautiful. But when you put your heart, soul, and pull out all stops, no bars hold?
Holds bar,
no
right.
holds bar, right? And you know that this is the most important thing in the world, then it grows into the stage, on the global stage of what is here today.
Do you think when your father started or when the Kinus began, he could ever have envisioned something like this?
I think the whole notion that there's over 6,000 shluchim in 110 countries, reaching every Jew everywhere, is something that I wouldn't say was unfathomable, because the Rebbe, foresaw it. But at the same time, in the same manner, my father would say the Rebbe didn't set out to build an army of shluchim. He sent out one shliach at a time, another shliach at a time. And when we look back, you see the army that was created. In the same way, anything you do in life, just make the next step count, make the next moment intentional, make sure you do the right thing, and when you look back, you'll be surprised yourself at what you accomplished.
Yeah, looking back behind us, it is really amazing what has been accomplished.
Rabbi Kotlarsky, we said that the first Kinus of Shluchim had 65 Shluchim. Today, Baruch Hashem, thousands of Shluchim filling the hall. Did your father feel that the role of the Kinus evolved or changed in some way as the scope increased so dramatically?
If I had to choose, the answer is no. For my father, the Kinus was about the Shluchim. This is the beginning, middle, and end. It's all about them, the messaging, the event, even at the time when you say it evolved on some level and this room was opened up, it's not your regular dinner or gala where somebody can just come and buy a ticket and you're raising money. This is a celebration of Shluchim's work, their impact on the world, the global impact and transformation of the Rebbe's army. And in order for them to be able to do their job better, we enable them to bring 2, 3, 4, or 5 of their key supporters, their key members that enable them to do it. So in essence, the answer is no, but obviously he has always pushed us to be ahead of the curve, whether it came to programming, whether it came to any part of the organization, to be creative, innovative, and make sure that what we put together over here is of the highest quality and impact.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Mendy Kotlarski. We'll be right back after this commercial break with a story about hitting the Australian outback in pursuit of Jews in a land down under.
You are watching the pre-show of the International Conference of Chabad Lubavitch Shluchim, hosted by Merkaz Le'Inyanei Chinuch, overseeing the global educational and outreach activities of Chabad Lubavitch in 6 continents, with 5,200 centers and 6,049 couples, bringing Judaism to your city. The main event will start shortly.
We are back here at the annual Chabad Shluchim Convention, talking with Shluchim from around the world. Chabad has grown to become the most widespread Jewish movement in the world, as befits the Rebbe's vision. So Shluchim have found themselves in some very unique postings. One of the most unusual is Chabad of rural and regional Australia, Rara. This is not your conventional mission, as you will soon see in this Rara video and the interview which follows. The focus of most Shluchim is above.
far-flung locations across the globe.
Even just one person is enough to get us going. Wherever Jewish people are, we will be there and we will join together with them to celebrate their Judaism.
Wow, what an incredible story. Here to share more about the Rara program, its vision and its shluchim, is the director, Rabbi Menachem Aaron. Thank you for joining us, Rabbi.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Menachem. So, you look like an otherwise reasonable person. What in the world attracted you to this kind of shlichus? Tell us a little bit about it, and tell us why you were attracted to this kind of shlichus.
So Chabad of Rara serves Jewish people living all over Australia. Australia is a massive country, and people live in Melbourne and Sydney, but people also live in further away areas. And when this opportunity came up, I grabbed it right away. It was an out-of-the-box thing, something which enabled me to use my abilities to connect with people in very far-off places. They could be an hour away, they could be 30 hours away. It doesn't matter, but we're there to serve them and ensure that they can do a mitzvah and they can be part of Jewish life.
Rabbi, you know, Judaism is really a communal, but most of the Jews you serve are very isolated. So how does Chabad enable you to bridge that gap?
So the beauty of Chabad is that we have such an amazing value on just one mitzvah, just one interaction. And with that, philosophy, with that idea with us, it doesn't matter if we have 2 people in the room or we have 20 people in the room. We are able to bring people together, and we are able to show them that community, that connection between each other, just by bringing them in a room, by lighting the menorah together, by putting on tefillin, or by doing any other mitzvah. And it doesn't matter where they are. If they're coming together to do a mitzvah, they are creating a community, and they are creating that connection which stays with them forever.
Do you continue to hear back from some of these people even after your visits are over?
We're in touch with these people all the time, and whether we're seeing them in person or we're in touch with them over Zoom, over the phone, we have that constant connection, and it's something which, even though they may be very far away, that connection is always there.
It's like you're creating a virtual community.
We create a virtual community, and the best part is we meet up in person often as well. Our volunteer rabbis that are on the road right now, we've got 2 rabbis 4 hours out of Melbourne as we speak, and they're connecting with Jewish people out there wherever they are.
Amazing, amazing. So Ra-Ra service model is kind of rare. Would it work in other places? Has it been tried anywhere else?
Yes, absolutely. It's been tried in a number of different places and succeeded in a number of different places around the world. Here in the United States, in the state of Georgia, there's Chabad of rural Georgia, in Arizona as well as outside of the states, in Argentina, as well as Brazil, and even in Thailand, they're setting up Chabad Hashluchim that are dedicated to serving people in more remote and more spread out areas. So definitely something that is worth trying. And if you know of some remote Jews, it's definitely worth getting in touch with them and building a connection with them.
Have you ever had a situation where you met somebody in sort of a far-flung place and that led to eventually starting a Chabad house or a bigger group?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually 3 Chabad houses which we've been very instrumental in setting up and starting around Australia. 8 years ago, we opened one up in Cairns, all the way to the top of Australia. About 5 years ago, we opened up a Chabad house in Newcastle, about 2 hours out of Sydney. And just 2 years ago, we put Chabad Shluchim in the Sunshine Coast, a beautiful part of Australia, which has over 1,000 Jewish people in just that area. So definitely something which we look forward to doing further and opening more Chabad houses in other regional parts of Australia.
How difficult is it to recruit people to come and do the Ra-Ra experience?
It's a challenge to get people to move to Australia. It's the other side of the world, but once they're in it, everybody enjoys it. It's an amazing experience to be able to, you see straight away, you see the connections that are being made, you see the people that you're connecting with, and it's something which is the most rewarding work you could ever do.
Thank you, Rabbi Aaron. It was wonderful meeting you, and good luck with the work that you're doing, and hopefully you'll see other people replicating the same kind of activity.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
We'll be right back after this commercial break with a story of tragedy and rebirth as Chabad of Mumbai commemorates a very special occasion.
You are watching the pre-show of the International Conference of Chabad Lubavitch Shluchim, hosted by Merkaz Le'Inyonei Chinuch, overseeing the global educational and outreach activities of Chabad Lubavitch in 6 continents, with 5,200 centers and 6,049 couples, bringing Judaism to your city. The main event will start shortly.
We're live. We Jews are the most resilient group in history. Mark Twain observed that of all ancient peoples, only Jews have survived intact, and he mused about what might be the secret to our continued existence. Of course, we Jews have always known that our secret is our Jewish covenant with Hashem. The Outback is only one of the many challenging or exotic shliach postings around the globe. 16 years ago today, terrorists stormed into the Nariman Chabad house in Mumbai and murdered Chabad emissaries Rabbi Gavriel and Rivka Holtzberg of blessed memory and 4 of their guests. Rabbi Moshe Kotlarski, speaking from Mumbai just days after the massacre, reminded us all that the Rebbe taught us the proper response to fighting evil is by adding light, which is strong enough to dispel it. 3 years later, remarkable Chabad Kappa Rabbi Yisrael and Chaya Kozlovsky became the new Shluchim in Mumbai and moved the Chabad house back into Nariman House. Here to tell us about how Chabad has risen from the ashes to carry on the Rebbe's mission are Rabbi Yisrael Kozlovsky, Director of Chabad of India, and Rabbi Avraham Rappaport, America's Shliach, who recently spent a week running Passover programs in Mumbai and other Indian cities.
Thank you both for joining us here today.
Thank you.
And for the amazing work that you're doing. So I can only imagine, Rabbi Kozlovsky, that the Jewish community of Mumbai must have been in shock and horror after the events of 2008. How did Chabad help to heal the community after this tragedy?
So first of all, by being there. Many would think that after such a tragedy, we will withdraw back. And with no time, Chabad was operating back again in Mumbai. And within a couple of short years, we returned to the same building. And we used that same building. We still have bullet holes in some part of it, as resemble the point that Am Yisrael will always strive and we will rise from ashes. In fact, we have upstairs in the 5th floor, the room where Moishi was saved from. And there is a height measurement that his mother, Rivki, Hashem Yikom Dama, wrote. And she wrote his age. She marked his age when he was 13 months old. A few years ago, he visited once again with the Prime Minister Netanyahu. And when he saw it, he asked him to stand next to it, and he drew his current height. And he wrote, Moshe is 11, Am Yisrael Chai. And when people come there, people from the community, people from outside the community, they come there, they see that Am Yisrael Chai, it's not just a theme or a song, but Am Yisrael Chai, it's a reality, and specifically from such place that resemble the power and the strength that Am Yisrael has.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Wow.
Moving over to you, Rabbi Rappaport, can you tell us what is Merkaz Shlichus and why did you volunteer?
Well, we know Merkaz Shlichus is something that was very dear to the Rebbe, sending out young yeshiva students to different rural places that didn't yet have an existing rabbi, Chabad house presence, and to go to these places, whether it's Pesach or the summer, and to make sure that there isn't a single Jew who doesn't receive love, care, a chance to wrap tefillin, a chance to light Shabbos candles. And for me, growing up in Mequon, Wisconsin on Shlichus, to go out on Merkaz Shlichus is a no-brainer. So that's what I did throughout my years of yeshiva.
Amazing.
So back to you, Rabbi Kozlowski. So trying to wrap my head around the idea of a Chabad house in Mumbai, in India. And I know that, helping Jews in far-off places is what we do, and helping them get involved in Jewish programming. But what kind of Jewish programming have you got available there in Mumbai, and how do people find out about you, and how do they get connected?
So us programming does not start with just teaching Aleph Beis, but it starts from the foundations, from having a mikveh, to kosher food, kosher milk, to kosher chickens, and everything in between, Chevre Kadisha, and basically a one-stop shop for everything Jewish. We also have a very ancient Jewish community, which unfortunately all the infrastructure of that community have diminished within the past 50 years or so. So there are many Jews in the city that they lack the Jewish infrastructure, including chinuch and kashrus and family purity and everything in between, so we step in. So our first major activity was a camp that we started 2 months after we arrived. And this year we celebrated the 12th years for the camp. And then it grew to a school. And we have classes, sit-ins, sick kids, and everything in between, young professionals. So how does people find us? So people from the local community, of course, we are under a speed dial of for everything Jewish and in between. And we have a lot of tourists, Israeli backpackers, that they look for us. They know where to come. They need a hug or a schnitzel. And many tourists specifically come to our Chabad house, even people who consider themselves unaffiliated, just because of the history of the place. So they come to see, and they walk out inspired because of what this place resembles. So it really changes people's view on their life and empowers them to act and to do. And this is to answer your question.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Let me get back to you, Rabbi Rappaport. I know a lot of Israeli backpackers, after they finish the army, they head off to India. When you come back and they hear about you see the beautiful places that they've seen and the things that they've done. But for you as Merkaz Shliach, what are some of the highlights of your time in India?
Yeah, definitely you meet a lot of fun Israelis throughout your time there. But I have to first mention that there's many highlights, but one of the greatest before we get into the end of Pesach, the Mashiach Suda, where we spent actually in a different city, but even just arriving there and being welcomed by Rabbi Kozlovsky, seeing a shliach who lives halfway across the globe with passion and chayas and energy is something that I grew up in Wisconsin. You could think that's far, you can't compare. But one of the highlights for sure was the Mashiach Suda. We spent the second days in a different city called Gala, and it was a 3-day Yom Tif, and 3 days of Yom Tif with a handful of Israelis and some homemade wine will take you places, and it was an incredible Mashiach Suda, going through all the nigunim, singing the songs, dancing, crying, laughing, and then switching into a beautiful Farbrengen afterwards was definitely the highlight. To think that here we are in the middle of a country that's not surrounded with tons of Jews, tons of Yidden celebrating, but in this small town, there's a home with a Farbrengen, with dancing, with joy, celebrating Yom Tif, something which obviously only the Rebbe can have such a vision.
I think as your father would say, it was very juicy.
Yes, you would.
Thank you, Rabbi Kozlovsky and Rabbi Rappaport. We'll be back right after this short commercial break with an update on the ongoing efforts by Chabad of the Ukraine to deal with the ongoing humanitarian crisis the country's been going through in the last 3 years.
You are watching the pre-show of the International Conference of Chabad Lubavitch Shluchim, hosted by Merkaz Le'Inyonei Chinuch, overseeing the global educational and outreach activities of Chabad Lubavitch in 6 continents, with 5,200 centers and 6,049 couples, bringing Judaism to your city. The main event will start shortly.
And welcome back. This is Rabbi Hesh Epstein and Zev Jacobson coming to you live from the annual Shluchim convention at the New Jersey Conference and Expo Center right here in Edison, New Jersey. As you're all aware, the extent and the brutality of the war in the Ukraine has shocked all of us. Ukraine is home to over 350,000 Jewish men, women, and children who, together with Ukraine's entire population, have been in harm's way for the last 3 years. All eyes have been on the Russian invasion, and it has caused widespread destruction, occupation, and disruption throughout the land. The suffering has created a truly humanitarian crisis and has upended the lives and the work of 384 Chabad Shluchim serving communities throughout the Ukraine. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett recently tweeted, "There is nothing like Chabad in the world. Every time Jews get caught in distress, no matter where it happens in the world, you will find Chabad angels there who are trying to help." We are fortunate to have with us one of those angels and to do this interview with a Chabad Shliach on the front lines who is here to share his experiences and insights with us, and we are very grateful to Rabbi Moshe Moskowitz for joining us today. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Welcome, Rabbi Moskowitz. You know, Chabad has had a very strong presence in Ukraine even before the war. Can you tell us a little bit about what Chabad Shluchim were doing for the community before the Russian invasion?
Well, already in 1990, when the doors opened in the Soviet Union, the Rebbe sent families over there, Shluchim. I was one of them, coming to Kharkov, but all over the Soviet Union, there is a Shluchim that are there from the beginning. We were witness the biggest miracles in our times, when in a land where 70 years they didn't let the Jewish people go to synagogues, schools, cheder, all of a sudden, everything is possible. The Rebbe called it the times of miracles, and we saw those miracles day by day. People that didn't know, they only knew that they were Jewish. All of a sudden, the rabbi came from here, and everything opened up. I remember the first Friday night, I came to the synagogue, a beautiful synagogue in Kharkov. All of a sudden, people see a young rabbi walking in. They thought, a rabbi has to be a long white beard. I'm getting there little by little bit. And, you know, all of a sudden comes energetic families that the Rebbe sent, and unbelievable, all over the Soviet Union. In Ukraine, every single city where there are communities, where there are Jewish people, there is a Chabad Shliach that is there from the beginning, from 1990, and whenever everybody else came. And I remember that they asked me, how long are you staying in Kharkov when I came with my wife and child? I told them we're going to close the lights of the synagogue when everybody is gone. I didn't know how deep those words are going to be, but this is where we are.
Amazing, amazing. So, Rabbi Moskowitz, can you tell us, both how the war has impacted the Ukrainian Jews in general and Chabad's ability to continue to offer all your services to the Jewish community.
Well, the war is a tragedy. The war fell on us in Ukraine, especially also in the city that I am. I am a few minutes away from the Russian border. Before the war started, I was 40 minutes away by car. Now I'm a few minutes away from the Russians, and they're bombing the city day by day. Every single day, there is bombs in the center of the city where we are. The war has impacted terribly everybody. There are those who lost their houses, their work. A lot of Jews had to leave Ukraine, had to leave Kharkov. But a lot of new Jews came. Those who till now, they didn't have any connection with the community. All of a sudden, the community became the center of help to all the people who stayed behind. I remember when the war started, after the first week, we thought that everybody's leaving. All of a sudden, we saw the people are staying. So the choice was for us to go and close the community, close the synagogue, or leave people behind. Or we realized that the Rebbe will probably want from us to stay despite the danger that we live day by day. You know, there are people who walk between the drops of rain. We in the Ukraine are walking between the bombs. But on the other hand, the Kiddush Hashem, that they see that the Hashluchim are there, the rabbis are there with the families, not by ourselves. I'm speaking today to you here. My wife is listening in Kharkov with my child, 10-year-old. They're listening to what we're saying. So we are very proud. We are thankful. It's good. It's hard, but it's good. You see the real work that the rabbis sent us to do over there.
That's very moving. I know I live in Israel, and I know what it's like having the missiles coming over. We have the Iron Dome, at least.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what you're going through there, Rabbi. But tell me, what unique role do you think that Chabad can play in rebuilding the Jewish community after the war is over?
You know, the Rebbe always taught us that any time you go down is to go up even higher. So we are already planning. We are planning to greet all the people who left. And first we hope that we're all going to be in Jerusalem together, not, you know, together with you. But, you know, we are thinking and planning already to open the school. My school building was bombed, and 98 windows were blown up. But we are planning to build stronger, higher, bigger, and to give the chance to every single Jew to get back to the Judaism, and this is the dream that, you know, that the Rebbe wanted from us.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
So Rabbi Moskowitz, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back after this short commercial break with two Chabad on-campus rabbis who will share their frontline experiences of the local war on anti-Semitism on our campuses across the U.S. today. Thank you.
You are watching the pre-show of the International Conference of Chabad Lubavitch Shluchim, hosted by Merkaz Le'Inyonei Chinuch, overseeing the global educational and outreach activities of Chabad Lubavitch in 6 continents, with 5,200 centers and 6,049 couples, bringing Judaism to your city. The main event will start shortly.
Welcome back. There's always been a subtle undercurrent of anti-Semitism on America's college campuses, but this has become a lot more overt and even condoned during the Gaza war. With 793 campus Chabad house directors, 364 campus Chabad houses, and over 150,000 students, no one is in a better position to assess and respond to this trend than the Shluchim at Chabad houses on campus. In a letter from the Rebbe, he wrote to a campus shaliach, "Fortunate is your lot, for you have the ability to influence and take part in the formation of Jewish youth." Here to share an up-close and personal perspective on the plague of campus anti-Semitism are two campus shluchim from very different campuses, communities, and political cultures. We are proud to welcome the two spiritual lamplighters illuminating the hearts, minds, and souls of our youth and future leaders. From Stanford University, we have Rabbi Dov Greenberg, and from the University of Texas, we have Rabbi Zeb Johnson. Welcome, rabbis.
Welcome, both of you, and thank you for being here. For Rabbi Johnson, the question I want to ask you is, how has campus anti-Semitism manifested itself at your campus?
Sure, it's the question of the hour, without a doubt. You know, we just sat a few shluchim with a major head of a Jewish organization, and he asked us the same question. And he said whenever he speaks to other organizations outside of Chabad on campus, he hears, oh my gosh, it's horrible, the encampments, the negativity, the darkness. But whenever he speaks to Chabad shluchim on campus, he hears, Baruch Hashem, it's going great. So I'm not saying there's cognitive dissonance, that there is a reality on the ground, that we have task force where we make sure that there is the activity that going on the ground is taken care of. But the idea of doing Judaism joyfully is something that Chabad on campus is able to bring in a very unique way out of all the organizations and worthy ones out there. And that is what the students feel, and that's what the broader community feel, and that's what truly makes changes on the ground.
So are you seeing tentifadas? Are you seeing protests? What are some of the manifestations of the anti-Semitism?
Yeah, look, we live in the great state of Texas, and I always say Texas is the greatest country in the world, with all due respect. So we do have encampments, we do have elements on the ground which are definitely unworthy and dark, and we do need to take care of. But I'll give you a story which happened on October 9th. On October 8th, our students, they called us up right after Simchas Torah, and they wanted to do a rally on campus amongst all of the tragedy and negativity which just took place. And there was a certain fear in the air. And to give the students incredible credit, they said we have to go on the iconic rally steps, the iconic tower at University of Texas, and galvanize everyone, the Jewish community and the non-Jewish community. And we went out and we were there for the entire community in a way that is unique that Chabad on campus does, with a call to action, speaking about light, mitzvahs, and we had the Jewish community and the non-Jewish community in a time where some of us feel like the non-Jewish community is not out there for us. Sometimes we have to extend a hand and tell them about 7 laws of Noach, which we do so well.
Can you tell me, Rabbi, I can imagine with so much anti-Semitism, perhaps many Jews feel the need to hide their Judaism and not to express it openly. What are students telling you about how campus anti-Semitism has affected their religious identity, their observance?
Yeah, it's fascinating because while if you consume the media too much, there's a certain element of fear in the air. But on the ground, I always say I take a lot of students to Israel every single year. And when you're in Israel, they come up to you and they ask you to put on tefillin and to take on another mitzvah and eventually put a mezuzah back in their home. But when I'm in America, it's you have to go to the student. But after October 7th, there's a hiserus, an awakening that I have never seen. And again, my background is I was a student at the campus where I'm a shliach now in 1999. So as a freshman, as a student back then, and as a shliach now, the awakening, the connection of students coming up to me not having to nudging them anymore, and to them asking me, Rabbi, do you have time to put on a tefillin with me? Can you come over to a mezuzah? I'm overwhelmed in a beautiful way with the desire and the demand from my students from very diverse backgrounds, demanding and wanting to do more mitzvahs, and putting up a mezuzah in a place where there's a mixed group of people, and saying and declaring out loud that this is my Jewish identity. I've never seen such power and awakeness and beauty with Jewish students in my entire life.
This is amazing, and I wanted to find out if the campus management, the administration, how have they been involved in this? Have you incorporated them in your work?
Yeah, the administration is wonderful. Again, we're in the great state of Texas, so the president has been a wonderful ally. The dean of Macombs has been a wonderful ally. There's actually a quick funny story. On Erev Shabbat, on that Friday after October 7th, she comes to me and in her Stetson hat and her boots, and she says, Rabbi, can I wear this? And I said, Dean, you do what you have to do. And she gets up there and she speaks to all of her students. She says, I want to tell you about the mitzvah of Shabbat candles. Now, again, she's not Jewish, but she was there for the Jewish community, as is the president, as so many people in that administration. And we have an incredible partnership. And Jews, there's a reason that New York and California and the students are flocking to Texas, because with all the strategy and the elements we have to navigate with, it is a very incredible, strong state for the Jewish community and people. And University of Texas is just leading the way.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Johnson from University of Texas. We're here joined as well by Rabbi Greenberg from Stanford University. I guess a bit of a different culture, a different place. But perhaps you can, you can tell us, how do you confront anti-Semitism and respond to all the attacks about genocide, etc., without losing the argument or moral high ground?
So, some time ago, I was doing this class in the Stanford Business School. And the class was about Jewish business ethics the responsibility a human being has with power to help society. And at the end of the class, there are about 35 students there. One of the students raises his hand. His name was Ali. And he says, Rabbi, why is it that your state, the Jewish state, Israel, practices and goes against everything you just discussed? Love, kindness, reciprocity. You guys are guilty of genocide, crimes against humanity. And the class got very quiet because it was about ethics, not about Israel. But I remember I looked at Ali and I said, Ali, please tell us, everybody in the class, why did you kill your grandmother? And it got quiet. And he said, Rabbi, I didn't kill my grandmother. So I said, Ali, please tell us, why did you kill your grandmother? I didn't do it. I said, is she alive now? He says, no, my grandmother's not alive. So I said, Ali, you agree that she's not alive. You admit that. He says, yes. The class started to chuckle because they realized that he had now walked into some kind of Talmudic trap. In other words, what happened here gets to the heart of your question. I accused Ali of doing something heinous, and he accepted the framework I set up. He accepted the narrative. And the moment he accepted that narrative, he lost the argument. And that's what's critical. The Jewish people, students on campus and around the world when we defend Israel, the moment we accept the narrative of genocide and all the crimes that Israel is not guilty of, but its neighbors are, then we lose the argument. So in Chabad houses at Stanford and across the country, what we teach the students is what is right about the Middle East is Israel. That's not what is wrong. And Israel is the one place that actually defends liberty, equality, justice, and all the great values of the Torah. And when that is taught with that kind of pride and confidence, then it changes the student body and it changes the space that Jewish students are in.
That's great. That's great. Really not accepting someone else's narrative and then finding the ability to reframe the argument is an excellent idea. I want to ask you about what role Jewish tradition and particularly the Rebbe's teachings play in helping students find resilience and strength to be able to deal with the anti-Semitism and the other challenges they're finding on campus.
So in Jewish tradition, you ask about Jewish... Closer. In Jewish tradition, the question is, when did the Jewish people become a nation? And when you look into the text of our tradition, you find a contradiction. There's one place where it talks about in Egypt, we're a nation. But later on, Moses, when he's defining the Jewish people, he says, Hayom hazen hiyot la'am. At Sinai, he says the Jewish people become a nation. So in Jewish tradition, it explains very beautifully. It explains that the Jewish people have two ways to become a nation. One way is in Egypt. In other words, when we are persecuted, when there's anti-Semitism and suffering, the Jewish people come together to unite, to defend off a predator, very similar to how animals do it out in the wild. And that's legitimate and it's necessary. If you want to survive, you have to be strong. We come together. And that is one way the Jewish people, indeed historically, became a people. But the second way the Jewish people became a nation, and this is very much expressed in Jewish tradition, especially in the Rebbe's Torah. The second way is not out of fear, but out of faith. Not because we're prisoners of anti-Semitism of the past, but because of a beautiful dream of creating a beautiful world of justice, of kindness, of kedusha, of mitzvah. And that's what Sinai represents. Sinai represents that Jewish people are united by a shared vision. So on campuses today, the Jewish students need both. They need a space like Chabad House, where Judaism and Israel is defended with strength and with pride, with moral clarity. And that's when we come together to fight against anti-Semitism. It's certainly needed. It's roots that keep us strong and allow us to thrive. But the primary thrust of Chabad House and of Torah is to celebrate its joys, its mitzvahs, its holidays, the vision of a beautiful world that each person is called to make because every student's an ambassador of God. In other words, to put it in a tweet, there's the Judaism of oi and the Judaism of joy. And the main thrust of Chabad is to teach the next generation of Jews the privilege and joy of being a Jew.
You know, Rabbi, I almost feel bad asking you this question after what you've just said, but, you know, sometimes when I read the news and, you know, you get to feel really bad about things, with the anti-Semitism rise on college campuses and across the Western world, You really feel there is a cause for optimism?
So there's absolutely cause for optimism. And the truth is, when we look at Jewish history, if you ask, what's the one great lesson we could take from Jewish history, I would put it this way. On the Jewish calendar, there are 3 holidays that revolve around anti-Semitism: Passover, Purim, and Hanukkah. All of those 3 holidays, great empires, the Egyptian, the Greece, and the Persian, attempted to destroy the Jewish people. You could say in modern lingo, they revolved around the BDS movement. They wanted to divest and sanction, boycott, and destroy the Jewish people. So those were 3 holidays that we commemorate, literally that revolve around anti-Semitism and BDS movement. But when you think more deeply, there's something that gets to the heart of your question, of optimism. And that is, what are the 3 delicacies that Jewish people eat on these holidays? Matzah, donuts, latkes, and jelly cookies, named after Haman, who was the author of the attempted genocide in Persia. So in other words, to be a Jew is to know that there are enemies that want to destroy the goodness and the godliness we represent. That's no question. But to be a Jew is to know in our bones and in every breath we take that anti-Semitism and hatred will not define us. In fact, we will take the negative energy, the darkness, and somehow turn it into pastries, cookies, jelly donuts, triumph. We will take what is negative, what is dark, and use it as fuel to celebrate. And so, if there's one single lesson from Jewish history, that is, we have every reason to joy, and those that rise up to destroy the Jewish people, in the end, in that endeavor, they themselves will fall, and we will somehow take the pain, the sorrow, turn it into bracha, into blessing, into mitzvah, and one day I suspect there'll be some kind of Iranian Kinus or Hamantash. B'mheira b'yameinu, amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. I must say, I feel quite jealous of your students because you have so much, radiate so much positivity. It's just incredible. Thank you very much, Rabbi Zev and Rabbi Dov, for joining us. And we'll be back right after this break with the chilling story of the recent pogrom that occurred in Amsterdam just a few weeks ago. Stay tuned.
You are watching the pre-show of the International Conference of Chabad Lubavitch Shluchim, hosted by Merkaz Le'Inyonei Chinuch, overseeing the global educational and outreach activities of Chabad Lubavitch in 6 continents, with 5,200 centers and 6,049 couples, bringing Judaism to your city. The main event will start shortly.
And welcome back. I'm Rabbi Hesh, and this is my friend Zev, coming to you live from the annual Shluchim Convention at the New Jersey Conference and Expo Center right here in Edison, New Jersey. On November 7th of this year, as thousands of Israeli soccer fans gathered in Amsterdam to watch Maccabi Tel Aviv take on Ajax in a much-anticipated soccer match, Chabad representatives were on hand at the city's Dam Square, offering fans a chance to put on tefillin, bringing the Jewish joy to the streets of the city. And yet, hours later, those fans would turn to Chabad to save their lives. As Jewish fans headed home, they were attacked by hundreds of brutal thugs. Many were injured and many more were forced to hide as Jews were hunted in the streets of Amsterdam. We are here with Rabbi Akiva Commissar, who heads Chabad Amsterdam Tourist and Israeli Center. He joins us now to tell the story of this incredibly harrowing event and the impact it has had on Amsterdam's Jewish community.
Rabbi Commissar, thank you so much for joining us. I see you're not wearing the Maccabi scarf with you. And I just want to ask, this ugly anti-Semitic incident which occurred recently in Amsterdam has generated worldwide attention. We understand that you were personally involved in the incident. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
Yes, of course. So it was in the middle of the night. We were very busy preparing for a big Shabbos since we had a lot of fans coming to Amsterdam. My colleague, Rabbi Dovi Pinkovich, was working very hard, and together with him, we were pulling off 2 very big locations for a Shabbos meal. It was 1:30 at night, and I get a message from one of our community members, asked me, Akira, could I help you in any hand? So I told him, what could you help me with at 1:30? And he told me, he started to send me the information that was coming on social media, and we understood that there is a very serious situation going on in the center of Amsterdam, the streets that we all know. And basically people were ambushed, and it was really very, very bad. At those moments there was also some information that maybe some hostages. The situation looked very, very bad at those early morning of Friday morning, November 8th.
So, as I understand it, Amsterdam has been, by and large, a pretty hospitable place. Jews feel safe there, or have. How has this recent pogrom impacted the local Jews? I mean, are people thinking of leaving? Are they afraid? What's going on?
So, of course, the first day, the first week was very petrifying. I mean, people really didn't know where it's going to. There's a lot of demonstrations since 7th of October. We had a lot of demonstrations, and a lot of people came out to the streets that we didn't know exist in the Netherlands. We were seeing people with the flags, with motorcycles. It looked more like an Arab country than a European country. So you see them coming out, and it's pretty scary, but to know that they're able to come and hit and do whatever they want on the streets, people felt unsecured, and the secured were luck. So we had a lot of speaking with the community, circles of people coming to talk, getting some therapy for people. Some people spoke about moving away. Thank God right now it's a little bit calming down. But I have to say that the past Sunday, after what happened in Abu Dhabi, we thought that after Amsterdam, what happened now, Abu Dhabi, people are not going to come to Sunday school. But we have 110% of people that came because we had new families that came because they say we feel more safe at Chabad than staying at home. This is our place to be.
That's really amazing. But when you look towards the future, so how are things going to change for you, for Chabad of Netherlands, based on this rise in anti-Semitism both in the Netherlands and in Europe? Anything different that you see in the future?
So the Rebbe always taught us, darkness, you fight with light. We just made a logo and a slogan for Hanukkah. We're going to have a big Hanukkah parade of cars around town, and it's going to be, we are the light. We are the light. That's the thing. We are the light. We hope to bring this year a new Shliach V'Sitin. This is our answer for anti-Semitism in the Netherlands. You want to put us down. You're trying to put us away. Psychologically, you're trying to get us to be scared, to stay home or leave. Nah, we're going to be here, and we're going to put more light and more light. And Bezat Hashem, until the real light of the coming of Mashiach. And as I tell all the Israelis, I'll be the last one to turn off the light when we leave over here.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Kamisar. I think on behalf of all those fans who came from Israel for the game, and in fact of Jews worldwide, that you were able to be there to help our fellow Jews. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back after a word from our sponsor with an update from the front lines of Israel, where Rabbi Hellinger and his Chabad team are looking after the spiritual and physical needs of our IDF soldiers as they watch over the Jewish nation in the holy city of our patriarchs, Hebron.
You are watching the pre-show of the International Conference of Chabad Lubavitch Shluchim, hosted by Merkaz Le'Inyanei Chinuch, overseeing the global educational and outreach activities of Chabad Lubavitch in 6 continents, with 5,200 centers and 6,049 couples, bringing Judaism to your city. The main event will start shortly.
Since its founding in 1986, the Chabad House in Kiryat Arba has been serving the local community and visitors to the area. Today, the work of Chabad of Hebron has expanded. On a weekly basis, thousands of IDF soldiers protecting the region are afforded an open home with care and friendship for the soldiers. Of course, food for the body comes with food for the soul, Torah study, tefillin, deep conversations about God, family, and hope. My son, Moshe, who served in the IDF in 2014, and part of his time was spent in Hebron, so I know from firsthand experience how meaningful and supportive Chabad of Hebron has been for the soldiers. Now, we all know what the soldiers that the soldiers are supporting the country, but who in fact is supporting the soldiers? So here to tell us more about the incredible work of Chabad on the front lines is Rabbi Mordechai Hellinger, Director of Visitor Coordination and Social Media. Good afternoon, Rabbi, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Rabbi Hellinger, can you tell us a little bit more about the Jewish programs that were being offered for the IDF soldiers even before the start of the war?
So, as you mentioned, our focus is the soldiers, being them for them day and night. And the Baal Shem Tov actually says that the Jews' gashmius, the Jews' physical needs, is spirituality, is ruchnius. And our services are there for the soldiers, whether it be to put on tefillin, offer them to put on tefillin, Shabbat meals, special programming for the chayalot, for the female soldiers, whether that be connected to holidays, obviously very often connected to culinary activities, and our flagship program of Ratz Chabad, a Chabad runner. So as you mentioned, in Hebron, there's a lot of soldiers, a lot of posts. So we have student volunteers who come for the year, and they go from post to post, offering the soldiers hot coffee, a smile, a kind word, a short Dvar Torah. So that is our main focus with the soldiers.
That's amazing. I'm just getting a message from our booth that we have a very special video of Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking to the Kinus. So we're going to pause here for a minute and go to our video, and we'll be right back after the video.
מבקש תחילה להביע שוב את תנחומיי על הירצחו של שליח חב"ד, הרב צבי קוגן, זיכרונו לברכה, השם ייקום דמו. אני מבקש גם להודות לכל השלוחים ולתנועת חב"ד העולמית שעושה כל כך הרבה להפיץ את אהבת ישראל ואהבת האדם. ואתם פשוט עושים מלאכת מצווה. אני מרכין את הראש בפניכם, מצדיע לכם, ואני תמיד זוכר את ההשראה הגדולה של הרבי מלובביץ'. נתן לי כוחות והשראה, וגם נבואות שרבות מהן התאמתו, ואני מאוד מאוד מעריך את פועלכם. שאו ברכה, חזקו ואמצו.
We're back right now, and it was amazing to be able to get that video up here, and very timely with talking about Israel. So, Rabbi Hellinger, what new Chabad services since October 7th have you guys introduced, or for the active duty and some of the Miluim, veteran soldiers as well, since the war started?
So first of all, the fact that we were able to continue the functioning of the Chabad house with all of our staff, all the rabbis in reserve duty. Baruch Hashem, we're 5 Chabad rabbis. We were all called up on October 7th to serve. And we were able to continue. We served in Hebron, so it was an interesting position to serve with the soldiers and serve the soldiers while being alongside them. And it's been soldiers from around the country who served in Hebron in the past, or Miluimnikim who we were in touch with them 10, 15 years ago, reaching out. We're the Chabad house for them, so they reach out. So many soldiers asking for more tefillin. We gave out, thank God, over 1,000 pairs of tefillin for soldiers. Many bases were opened up that weren't functioning beforehand, so we were able to fill the need of mezuzahs that were lacking, so thousands of mezuzot as well, and to just be there more for the soldiers, more than before, upkeeping what we have and building on that.
Amazing.
Tell me, Rabbi Hellinger, I've been on tours in Hebron with you, and you're always very animated, and really, Hebron comes alive. Just tell me a little bit, how do you see your shlichut in Hebron? You were also a soldier in the army. What does it mean for you to be in the city of Hebron?
So to be in the city of Hebron is to walk in the footsteps of Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, Jacob, and Leah. Really, the streets that makes us who we are. And as being a shaliach, the Rebbe says that our job is to emulate the ways of Avram Avinu, to go out and to connect more and more people to Hashem, to Torah, to mitzvot, and we get to do that in the city where Avram lived and walked and roamed, and it's very special and amazing, and as you mentioned, to welcome people from all walks of life to the city of Hebron, and it's a real honor.
Amazing. Can you tell us, in what way has the war made it more difficult to service the IDF troops?
So, honestly, it's been easier in a way. More soldiers want to do, but let's say the tefillin that we put on soldiers went down because now more soldiers are putting it on their own, thank God. So that's, thank God, let them continue that. But really, we've been able to use our prior experience with the IDF and the fact that we ourselves were serving to get to the soldiers in the most fascinating places, whether it be to bring it up to the border and call somebody who can bring it into the front lines of where things are needed. So we were able to take the situation of the war as a springboard to get to more soldiers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rabbi Hellinger.
I want to ask one more quick question. I know we have to go in a minute, but can you project a little bit into the future? God willing, the war in Gaza is over, we deal with the situation up north. How do you think the soldiers and their families, how are they going to deal with this sort of post-war situation? Emotionally, mentally, psychologically? Have you thought about that at all?
That is a big problem. That is something that's on our minds, and we know that just to be there for the soldiers, to be a listening ear. I had many conversations with various different shluchim here over the weekend of the needs that will be arising, that will be coming, that people just need their Chabad rabbi to be there for them. And we are happy that we're 6,000 strong, ready to welcome Am Yisrael, and hopefully before then we'll all meet in the Beis HaMikdash with Mashiach.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rabbi Hellinger. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. We do hope that our show today has provided an entertaining glimpse into some of the programming. My apologies. We're going to be doing the Birkat Hamazon. We're going to be doing the benching soon. So,
Turning it back over to the main stage.
Okay.
Shkoya. Thank you.
Rabbi Samuel Vellenbenchen. Yehi Shem Adonai Merachmet Tzav Viad Eilam Barshus Merabana Rabbanas Eloheinu Shachalnu Mishalom. Baruch Eloheinu Shachalnu Mishalom Tovah Chayinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam.
So the end of the bracha.
Posech Esedech Umazbilucho Chayratzon Baruch Atah Adonai Zanes HaKol. Zachreinu Adonai L'Boli Tova, Ufagdeinu V'od Livracha, V'hoshinu V'l'chaim Toivim, Uvnei Yerushalayim Ir Kodesh B'mher Aminu, Baruch Atah Adonai Boneh V'rach Yerushalayim Amen. Arachamanu Kadesh Aleinu Etzach Chodesh Hadzeh Letov Livracha. Aracham Livracha Zimos. Baruch HaGiver Sheftach Baranai V'Yam Yiftachoi. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Pri Hagafen.
Shluchim and guests, please find your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Once again, Shluchim and guests, please find your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Shluchim and guests, please find your seats. The program will begin in 4 minutes. Once again, Shluchim and guests, we ask that you please take your seats. The program will start in 4 minutes. Shluchim and guests, we ask you, please find your seats. The program will be starting shortly. Once again, we ask Shluchim and guests, please find your seats. The program will begin shortly.
For those joining us from around the globe, we hope that our show today has provided an entertaining glimpse of some of the program offered by Chabad in general, and Kinus in particular, although only a small taste, to be sure. As the Chabad movement has grown, and Shlichus has become truly a worldwide phenomena, an annual gathering like the Kinus grows more important to communicate and reinforce our joint mission of enhancing Yiddishkeit for all Jews, no matter where they may be.
Thanks, Zev, for your participation, for all your help with today's program. I have learned so much from the stories of these amazing shluchim that we met today. This is my 38th Kinus, and I am still moved and amazed by the courage and the commitment of these shluchim. Their efforts are an inspiration for me personally, and hopefully for all of those who are watching the show at home. Certainly the Rebbe is shepping nachas as his vision to reach the worldwide Jewish community with love and care is being realized. So much of the inspiration comes from shluchim participation each year at this Kinus.
You know, thus far we have reviewed shlichus through the lens of the shluchim themselves. But before we sign off, I want to share the perspective of the Jews who are served and inspired by the Rebbe's army. For many Jews, the Chabad rabbi and rebbetzin represent their main and sometimes their only connection to Judaism, their principal source of Yiddishkeit, and often the one enduring constant in Jewish community. It would be difficult to accurately assess the number of Jews who have been meaningfully impacted by Chabad over the past 75 years. And on a personal note, I want to mention a very big thank you to all the Chabad Shluchim in Johannesburg, South Africa. I joined the Torah Academy school as a young child. I was 6 years old. And the trajectory of my life and that of my brother has very much been by the Jewish education, the love for Yiddishkeit, and the Ahavas Yisrael that we received from the Chabad Shluchim there. So thank you very much, and of course, to all of the Rebbe's Shluchim. You know, perhaps some of the Shluchim have wondered how in the world they landed up being posted to some remote hamlet or some small shtetl. How could they maintain an authentic Jewish life or have a meaningful impact in a place nearly bereft of Jewishness? And yet, they have persevered, and yet they have prospered, leaving an indelible Jewish footprint everywhere they go. Indeed, Chabad in many ways has become the heart and the soul of many Jewish communities and the key engine of Yiddishkeit for so many Jews, from the marginally affiliated to the heavily engaged.
We are now ready to take you to the main event of the evening. I'm Rabbi Hesh Epstein.
And I'm Zev Jacobson. Thank you for joining us. And now, on to the main event.